My name is Martin Ferreira. I own the Purple Factory down here, Regent Park. Yeah, man, been doing it since I was about 15 years old. Just one day at a time, getting it to where it needs to be. Born and raised in Toronto, immigrant parents,
You said you started at 15, right?
I started cutting my own hair at 15, yeah.
Right. So 15, how were things? Like, did you have your own place? Of course, it was not a setup like this. So, but I mean, like where did you do things? Because I know a lot of people are like, I started at like a high school washroom or something like that.
Sure. So, I started in the washroom in my mom's apartment.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, like, my first client was myself, and that's where I learned. That's where you make mistakes, you know what I mean? Fix your mistakes. Soon after it was, my friends that were right next to me, in basements and backyards, hallways, balconies, washrooms, driveways, wherever, stairwells, you know what I mean? Everywhere, Do you consider yourself as someone who has a more of a natural talent for being a barber, or is it something that you had to learn? And you just felt like, I want to continue this. I think, people say, like anyone can learn, for example, if we're talking about cutting hair, anybody can learn. It's a skill to learn. You know what I mean? It's a technique that you can develop your technique. I think the talent is like, if you're going to talk about God-given talent or like your talent that you had, for me, it might have been my talent or the stuff that you can't teach, is more, being patient with people, listening to people, being present, you know what I mean? Being responsible, like those kind of things that your natural kind of creativity to like cutting hair is kind of like sculpting, it's like, I compare it to like a sculptor, where you're taking something away to create something new. Right? So to be able to see something before it's there, you know what I mean? If I can see a design in the side of your head before I do it, you know what I mean? That part's the talent. You know what I'm saying? The skill to do that, anyone can learn that.
Right.
You know what I mean? The creativity, for example, that may be the talent part that you either, maybe you have it or you don't, but technique-wise, anybody can learn, how to draw. You know what I mean? We can go take an art class and learn the technique of how to draw and how to turn a 2D image into a 3D image based off of a light source and a shading, and anybody can develop that technique, but do you have the creativity to create something, out of your mind, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
like that part might be the talent, in my opinion,
What type of hair or what type of clients do you feel like have been made things the hardest in regards to your ability to cut hair?
Because I feel like people ask that question, especially back in the day. So you got to remember back, like, this barber game, all of this, what we see, what people, for the most part, what you see going on TikTok and Instagram now, like the hype kind of barber element, all originates in black culture, right? It all originates in so-called black barbering, black hairstyling, you know what I mean? Which is generations and generations old.
Right.
So I feel like back in the day, especially, people would ask that question, like, oh, what's the hardest hair to cut? Thinking that the answer is going to be, oh, super tight curly hair, whatever, or whatever type of like answer like that. Like, for me, the hardest people to cut are the people that don't, there's a type of person that doesn't know and doesn't care what they want. That's the hardest person for me. You know what I mean? It's one person to say, okay, do you want this? They're like, yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, what do you want? I don't know. Like, that to me is the harder one. I'd rather deal with the guy that's like, yo, see this right here? Bring it down like a 2 millimeter and see this right here? I'd rather deal with the super detailed guy all day, every day, compared to the person who doesn't know. It's one thing to not know, but when you don't know and then you don't care, that's the part that, to me, makes it a little bit more challenging. You know what I mean? But other than that, that's, texture-wise, hairstyle, you know what I mean? That, again, if you're a barber, it's like if you're a chef, you're comfortable in any kitchen, bro. You know what, you know what I mean? Any sauce, any spice, any type of anything, you know what I mean? You're supposed to know how to deal with that and handle that, like, so ethnicity or whatever. Man, we're in the city of Toronto, brother. You know what I'm saying? If you're open, you're seeing everybody in every single walk of life, right? Like.
Have you ever, when people wanted something specific for their hair, you just decided that, okay, you know what, I don't think this is a good idea for like the longevity of your hair?
Yeah. I think sometimes you have to think on behalf. It's a fine line because, again, this, I guess, what comes into the element of, do you have that talent? Do you have that ability to see something before it's there? You know what I mean? Sometimes we have to think on behalf of the other person. But if there's an arrogance or there is an ego in that decision making, then you can go wrong, right? But if like for example, somebody asks, oh, give me a level 3 on top, for example, me maybe making an assumption, you know, 9 times out of 10, bro, my assumption, truthfully for myself, 9 times out of 10 in those situations, I'm pretty spot on and I'm good, you know. But a lot of times somebody might be asking, give me a level 3 on top, and in my mind I'll be like, this guy doesn't want a level 3. If I give him a level 3, he's gonna be sad, even though he's asking for it, right? So I'll go with like a level 6, 5.5 on top, for example, which is in barber world is a big difference. And 9.5 times out of 10, but you like that level? How's that? No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Because you know what I mean. Again, once you gain that experience, you know what I mean. You kind of. It's your job as a professional, you know what I'm saying, to listen to what's being said and then also read between the lines, you know what I mean, and listen to maybe what's not being said or like, you know, what someone's trying to describe, and so you gotta kind of, like I said, see what's not there sometimes, and you know, again, the way I always tell people, I can always take it shorter, brother, you know what I'm saying? I just can't put it back, right? So I'd rather take that extra minute and a half and take it a longer level, for example, if someone's asking, because I can always knock it down to a 3 if I needed to, you know what I mean?
Like you had immigrant parents, right?
My mother, yeah.
Right, so I'm wondering, like, what ethnicity do you have?
So my mother's Creole. I don't know if you ever heard of Creole people.
I've never heard, no.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know up here, right? But my mother's actually, the family is Cape Verdean Creole. It's a small little island. It was a former Portuguese colony in Africa, in West Africa. So in a nutshell, Creole just means that black and white basically started mixing like 550 years ago in those islands. So you got Louisiana French Creole. You know, Creole is a term that gets kind of thrown around, but where my family is from originally in Cape Verde is the oldest Creole culture in the world. So the first time any group of people were referred to as Creole people was in those islands. So it's essentially mixed race Portuguese speaking people, you know what I mean? It's black people that are mixed with white Portuguese and African slave descent. It's part of the African diaspora and slave history, you know? And so my mother's side is Cape Verdean, and my father was a Canadian man,
So we just actually, like, we were just talking a little bit, we just kind of like delved into it in regards to TikTok culture and the expectations of people, right? So in the modern day, what do you take issue with in regards to what people want with their hair due to what social media has been telling them? Or do you just not, you know, like you just feel like it's a good thing maybe? Yeah,
you know, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like myself personally, truthfully, like I'm not on social media. You know, since I came down here, I took a break. I haven't been on social media for like 6 years. Not that there's anything against it. I think it's a good thing if it's utilized properly and whatever. It's interesting for the barber culture in terms of social media, because it's, in my opinion, it's created like a hype element to it, right? Like in my time coming up, we didn't have like YouTube, brother, let alone Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and this. We didn't have none of that, right? So we, you know, at the time that I started, it was like very much a word of mouth, which it still boils down to a word of mouth profession, but it was very much like based off of like what you see. Oh, who cut your hair? You know what I'm saying? Somebody, I cut your hair, and someone goes, one of your friends or your cousin or somebody asks, oh, who cut your hair? And that's the sale right there. That's the promotion right there, right? That's the, you know, someone liking it and reposting it and whatever. That's the equivalent of that, essentially, right? But I feel that it's good. Like I like it. I like the fact that there's you know, whatever trending things is going on. You know, with that, it's like this, you know, everything that glitters ain't gold. You get a lot of guys that are just, what you see more of, we put it in a simple way, I feel what you see more of these days is barbers just wanting that finished product in terms of the haircut while you're here in the chair to look like Instagram ready, look social media ready, like they want that look, you know? So there's, you know, more enhancements being used, you know, the sprays and whatever to sharpen lines and darken up certain spots and whatever. I think it's cool. I rock with it. I'm not opposed to it. But what I am opposed to more is like if you're hiding your blemishes or your faults a little. There's a lot of people barbers that can like I said, it's essentially like the fade may be painted on. As opposed to actually in there,
like
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like the enhancement is exactly that. It's supposed to be an enhancement. It's like makeup, pretty much. And the rule for like back in the day for women with makeup was like, you're supposed to look like you're not wearing any.
Right.
That's the kind of the rule of thumb is like, you're not supposed to look like you're supposed to look natural. You're supposed to look not like caked on, looking crazy. Like, you know what I mean? So to me, I think, you know, you get a little bit more, it's like that hype, it's like hype beast kind of culture, you know what I mean? You get a little bit more of like barbers trying to hop in just to get that look.
Right.
You know, where I come from an era with it's like old heads, like guys that's been doing it for 30 years, 20 years, whatever, however long. So I'm curious to see really like for the new age cats, like 5, 10, 15 years from now, like who's still in it? You know what I mean? Like, are you just a barber for a couple summers because this is what's popping on
social media?
On social media, you know what I mean? Or are you actually really in it to you know, for the long haul? You know,
you are of a family of immigrant parents, right? And you were born here in Canada.
I'm born. I'm the only one of my mother's children born here. Yeah.
So, as someone who has immigrant parents, do you feel like it's been a bit of a struggle living here in Canada, or do you feel like, you know, it's been smooth sailing? For, you know, just in your personal life, of course, it doesn't really...
I think life is struggle, brother. I think everything is struggle. Whether we're here, we're in Fiji, we're in Australia, we're in, you know, Bangladesh, don't matter. And life is going to bring its struggles no matter what. We can always say the classic thing, we grew up not knowing money, not knowing, you know, having that extra privilege or whatever, but we always had food. You know what I'm saying? My mom was, you know, make it happen and whatever, like, you know, single mom raising 3 boys and whatever, you know? So it's like, you know, I ultimately, you know, I think the mentality, you know, I'll say it too, is like, I feel like that generation, like my mother being one that immigrated at a later age to a new country, right? The mentality is kind of like, it's not our place to complain. Like, don't say anything, don't, you know? We're happy to be here. My mother was also illegal for a few years, right? Like a lot of people that come, they may be illegal for some type of time, you know what I mean? So my mother was actually illegal for some type of years as well. So that develops, it creates a mentality that's like, yo, just stay under the radar, don't complain about nothing. You may have your opinion about maybe what may be going on, but it's not your position to complain because you're not really from here, right? So for me, growing up here, being a product of over here, born in St. Joe's Hospital and whatever, my birth certificate will always say Toronto, you know what I mean? So for me, we have more of that kind of mentality that's like, yo, this ain't right. Like, what's this? What's that? What are they doing? You know what I mean? Like maybe critique or like criticize a little bit more, you know? We feel more rooted. We feel more...
do you mean like rooted in the city itself?
In the city, I'm saying, yeah, if we're talking about Canada, if we're talking about, you know, whatever, like, we feel more like, no, this, you know, if we have an opposing view to what, you know, let's say the government or the city of Toronto may be doing or whatever it may be, if we have an opposing view of being, you know, born and raised over here, I feel a little bit more strongly, you know, to voice my opinion than my mother that may be more timid, more scared. That's like, yo, I'm not really from here. I was at a point where I was here where they could send me back. You know what I mean? So it's like that mentality that's a little bit more scared, like, you know, to want to ruffle any feathers potentially. You know what I mean? So.